Dr. Samantha Wells adjusted her headlamp as she carefully documented the unusual crystalline formations deep within the Carpathian cave system. After 15 years of military service as a combat engineer, she'd found peace in archaeology, though her old habits of vigilance never quite faded. The beam of light caught something different among the natural formations, a perfect geometric pattern that shouldn't exist at this depth. "Marcus, bring the scanning equipment over here," she called to her research assistant. The young physicist hurried over, his excitement visible even in the dim light. The pattern they'd found wasn't just unusual, it was impossible. Perfect hexagons don't form naturally at this scale, and certainly not with the precision they were seeing. As Marcus set up the ground-penetrating radar, Samantha's hand instinctively moved to where she once carried her sidearm. The military had drilled into her that anything too perfect in nature usually meant human intervention, or something else entirely. The scanner's holographic display flickered to life, revealing what lay behind the crystalline wall. Marcus gasped. "Dr. Wells, this can't be right. The readings suggest a hollow chamber with some kind of suspended animation pod inside." Before Samantha could respond, the geometric pattern began to pulse with a soft blue light. The crystal wall became transparent, revealing a chamber that defied everything she thought she knew about human history. In the center floated a pod of impossible technology, its surface rippling like liquid metal despite being solid. Inside was a figure that appeared human at first glance, but subtle differences became apparent upon closer inspection. The skin had a slight opalescent quality, and patterns of light seemed to flow beneath it like bioluminescent rivers. "Marcus, get on the satellite phone. Call Dr. Patel at the university in no one else," Samantha ordered, her military training taking over. "We need to document everything before." The pod's surface began to shift, revealing seams that hadn't been visible before. A soft hiss filled the chamber as ancient mechanisms activated. Samantha pulled Marcus back, positioning herself between him and the pod. "Behind me. Now." The pod opened with geometric precision, revealing its occupant in full. The being sat up with fluid grace, opening eyes that shimmered like opals. When it spoke, its voice carried harmonics that seemed to resonate with the crystal walls themselves. "I am Ariadne of the Stellar Guardians," it said in perfect English, though its mouth movements didn't quite match the words. "I awakened far later than intended. Tell me, children of Earth, what year is it by your counting?" Samantha kept her voice steady, though her mind raced with questions. "It's 2025. Ariadne's expression shifted to one of concern. "Then we have awakened too late. The convergence has already begun." She attempted to stand but stumbled, her muscles weak from millennia of suspension. Samantha caught her reflexively, surprised by how normal she felt, warm, solid, real. "Marcus, cancel that call," Samantha decided, helping Ariadne steady herself. "The moment anyone knows about this, she'll disappear into some government facility. We need to understand what's happening first." "A wise choice," Ariadne said, her opalescent features reflecting the blue light of the crystal walls. "Your world stands at a crossroads, and what happens in the next few days will determine the fate of not just Earth, but countless civilizations across the galaxy." As if in response to her words, the cave trembled slightly. In the distance, they could hear the distinct sound of helicopter rotors. Someone else had detected the energy signature of the pod's activation. "We need to move," Samantha said, her tactical training already mapping escape routes. "There's a secondary tunnel system that isn't on any official maps. I found it during my initial survey but kept it off the records." "The choice you make now," Ariadne said as they helped her toward the hidden tunnel, "will echo across centuries. Are you certain you wish to become involved in events far beyond your world?" Samantha thought of her years in the military, of all the times she'd seen fear drive people to make the wrong choices. "I'm certain I don't want to let fear of the unknown determine humanity's first real contact with another civilization." As they disappeared into the hidden tunnel, the sound of boots and equipment could be heard entering the main chamber. Above ground, more helicopters were arriving, and in orbit, satellites were already being repositioned to track any similar energy signatures across the globe. The game of hide and seek that would determine humanity's future had begun, and Samantha Wells, former military engineer turned archaeologist, found herself playing for stakes higher than she could have imagined. In her arms, Ariadne shivered slightly, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with what might have been anxiety or anticipation. "Your people named these mountains after the Carpi tribes," Ariadne murmured as they moved deeper into the earth. "But long before them, we called this place the Cradle of Dawn. How fitting that it should serve that purpose once again." The abandoned mining office looked exactly as Samantha remembered it from her preliminary survey, a perfect hiding place precisely because it appeared so unremarkable. As she secured the perimeter, Marcus worked to set up their emergency equipment while Ariadne studied a dusty geological map on the wall with intense interest. "Your understanding of planetary composition has evolved significantly," Ariadne observed, her finger tracing ley lines that weren't marked on the map. "Yet you still haven't discovered the crystalline network that connects everything." Samantha checked the makeshift signal jammers she'd constructed from their research equipment. "You mean there's more than just the cave system we found you in?" "The caves are merely access points," Ariadne explained, her opalescent skin reflecting the dim emergency lighting. "The entire planet is veined with crystal formations that once served as our communication network. They're also what drew the attention of the harvesters so long ago." Marcus looked up from his laptop, where he'd been monitoring military communications. "Dr. Wells, they're expanding the search radius. They've detected similar energy signatures in the Ural Mountains and the Himalayas." "More of your people?" Samantha asked Ariadne. "My fellow guardians, yes. But they should not have awakened yet." Ariadne's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with concern. "Something has triggered the emergency protocols. The harvesters must be returning sooner than we calculated." A distant rumble shook dust from the ceiling. Military aircraft had been flying overhead for hours, their patterns becoming more systematic. Samantha knew it was only a matter of time before they found them. "You keep mentioning these harvesters," Marcus said, his scientific curiosity overriding his fear. "What exactly are they harvesting?" Ariadne's expression became grave. "Potential. They seed worlds with crystalline networks, wait for civilizations to develop, then harvest the combined knowledge and evolutionary achievements of entire species. Earth was meant to be their next target, but we intervened." "Why?" Samantha asked, though part of her already suspected the answer. "Because we saw something in humanity that reminded us of ourselves before we evolved beyond physical form," Ariadne said, her voice carrying that strange harmonic quality that seemed to resonate with their very bones. "A capacity for both great destruction and extraordinary compassion. We chose to protect rather than exploit that potential." An alert tone from Marcus's laptop interrupted them. "They've found something in the Urals. The chatter suggests they've recovered one of the pods, but it was empty." Ariadne moved to the geological map again, her movements more urgent. "Nikolai must have awakened. He was always the most impetuous of us. He'll try to reach the archive alone." "Archive?" Samantha and Marcus asked simultaneously. "A repository of our knowledge and technology, hidden beneath what you now call Mount Elbrus. We split our archives across the planet's highest peaks, believing they would be the last places to fall if the harvesters broke through our defenses." Ariadne's patterns pulsed faster. "But accessing them without proper preparation could be catastrophic. The knowledge they contain must be introduced gradually, or it could destabilize your entire civilization." Another explosion, closer this time, made the windows rattle. Samantha checked her tablet, which showed multiple military units converging on their location. "We need to move. But first, I need to know exactly what we're dealing with. What happens if these harvesters return and find humanity?" "They would do what they have done to countless civilizations before," Ariadne said softly. "Strip away everything that makes humanity unique, reducing your species to basic computational resources for their vast network. All your art, your music, your capacity for love and wonder, gone. Marcus's laptop chimed again. Dr. Wells, you need to see this. Global news networks are picking up stories of strange lights in the skies over major mountain ranges. Social media is exploding with theories, and governments are struggling to maintain control of the narrative. Samantha made a decision. The Urals are closer than the Himalayas. If this Nikolai person is heading for the archive there, that's where we need to be. She turned to Ariadne. Can you make it? My strength returns with each passing hour, Ariadne assured her. But we face a greater challenge than mere physical distance. Your military forces are not our only concern. There are those among my own people who believed humanity should never have been contacted at all. If they have awakened as well. A new sound cut through the night, the distinctive whir of drone rotors. Dozens of them, creating a net pattern that would make escape nearly impossible by conventional means. The crystal network, Samantha said suddenly. You said it connects everything. Can we use it? Ariadne's patterns shifted to a new configuration, one that seemed to pulse with approval. Now you begin to think as we do. Yes, the networks can transport us, but using them will alert others to our presence. Are you prepared for what that might mean? Samantha thought of the military units closing in, of the harvesters somewhere out in space, of civilizations that had already fallen. She thought of humanity's potential, both for greatness and destruction, hanging in the balance. Sometimes the only way to hide is to run straight into the spotlight, she said, remembering an old military tactical principle. Marcus, get everything uploaded to your secure server. If this goes wrong, someone needs to know the truth. Ariadne placed her hand on the wall, and crystalline patterns began to spread from her touch, transforming the mundane concrete into something ancient and powerful. As military searchlights began to sweep the building's exterior, the patterns grew brighter, singing with that same harmonic resonance that seemed to bypass their ears and speak directly to their souls. The network responds to thought and intention, Ariadne explained quickly. Focus on the destination, the heart of what you call Mount Elbrus. But be warned, the first journey through the crystal ways can be disorienting. The drone swarm was directly overhead now, and the sound of boots on gravel signaled that the ground teams had arrived. As the door began to shake with the first battering ram impact, Samantha grabbed Marcus's hand with one hand and Ariadne's with the other. Next stop, Mount Elbrus, she said, trying to project confidence she didn't entirely feel. Let's hope your friend Nikolai left us something to work with. The crystalline patterns flared with brilliant light just as the door burst open. To the soldiers who stormed the room, it appeared as though their quarry had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a fading resonance that seemed to whisper of ancient secrets and futures yet to be written. Traveling through the crystal network felt like diving into liquid starlight. When reality reassembled itself, Samantha found herself gasping in the thin mountain air of the Caucasus Range. Marcus stumbled beside her, while Ariadne seemed completely unfazed by the journey. They stood in a hidden valley beneath Mount Elbrus's snow-capped peak. The morning sun painted the landscape in shades of gold, but something else caught their attention, fresh footprints in the snow leading toward a crystalline formation similar to the one where they'd found Ariadne. Nikolai has already been here, Ariadne confirmed, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to a deeper, more concerned rhythm. The archive's outer seals have been broken. A military drone buzzed overhead, reminding them they weren't alone. Samantha pulled them into the shelter of an overhanging rock. How long before they track us here? They already have, Marcus said, checking his tablet. Russian and NATO forces are mobilizing. There's something else, similar energy signatures are being detected in the Rockies, the Andes, and the Alps. It's like the whole network is waking up. Ariadne's patterns pulsed rapidly. The awakening cascade has begun. Once one archive is accessed, the others respond. Nikolai's actions have accelerated everything. She turned to Samantha, her opalescent eyes intense. "We must reach the core chamber before." A sonic boom shattered the morning calm. Through gaps in the clouds, they glimpsed something that defied conventional physics, a ship that seemed to bend light around itself, descending toward a point several miles away. "The Harvesters send scouts first," Ariadne explained, her voice tight with urgency. "They test a world's defenses before committing their main fleet. We have hours at most." They followed the footprints, moving as quickly as they dared across the treacherous terrain. The crystal formation grew larger as they approached, revealing itself to be an intricately carved archway embedded in the mountain face. Symbols similar to those in the Carpathian cave pulsed with internal light. Inside, they found evidence of Nikolai's passage, activated control panels and open doorways that should have remained sealed. The architecture was both ancient and impossibly advanced, making Samantha's archaeologist mind spin with implications. There, Marcus pointed to a fresh holographic display floating in the air. "He's accessing historical records. Look at these timestamps, they go back hundreds of thousands of years." Samantha studied the flowing symbols. "This isn't just history. These are military records. Battle plans, weapon specifications. The archives contain everything," Ariadne confirmed. "Including knowledge humanity is not ready for. Nikolai believes awakening humanity's defensive capabilities is worth the risk of cultural shock, but he doesn't understand how interconnected everything is. One piece of advanced technology introduced too soon could cascade through your entire civilization, causing chaos." A new alarm echoed through the chamber, different from the others, more urgent. Marcus's tablet displayed multiple emergency alerts. "They're evacuating cities across Europe. Something massive just appeared in high orbit. The Harvester scout ship is scanning your orbital defense capabilities," Ariadne explained. "When it finds none, the main fleet will be summoned." She pressed her hand to a crystal panel, interfacing directly with the archive. "Nikolai is in the weapons vault. He plans to activate the planetary defense grid." "Isn't that a good thing?" Marcus asked. "If these harvesters are coming. The grid draws power from Earth's core," Ariadne cut him off. "Activating it without proper calibration could trigger catastrophic tectonic events. Nikolai always believed the ends justified the means, but he's betting with the lives of every human on the planet." Samantha's military training kicked in. "Options? We can still reach him through the internal transport network." "But," Ariadne hesitated. "Someone must remain here to prevent military forces from following. The archive's security systems are formidable, but they were designed to recognize our biology. A human touch could bypass them." Marcus straightened his shoulders. "I'll do it. I can use the holographic systems to make them think the complex is bigger than it is, lead them on a wild goose chase." "Marcus," Samantha started to protest, but he cut her off. "I'm a physicist, remember. This tech might be advanced, but I understand enough of the principles. Besides," he managed a tight smile, "someone needs to keep the world's militaries from starting World War III while you save the planet." Before Samantha could argue further, the chamber shuddered. Above them, the Harvester scout ship was moving into position. Each passing minute brought them closer to a point of no return. "He's right," Ariadne said softly. "Time grows short, and we must trust in each other's strengths." Samantha pulled Marcus into a quick hug. "Don't be a hero. If things get hot, I'll use the crystal network to evacuate," he promised. "Now go stop this Nikolai person from trying to save humanity by accidentally destroying it." As Ariadne led her to another transport node, Samantha glanced back at her young assistant. He'd already turned to the holographic controls, his fingers dancing across symbols he shouldn't have been able to understand. In just days, he'd gone from studying physics to manipulating alien technology that rewrote the rules of what he thought was possible. "Your species adapts remarkably quickly," Ariadne observed as she activated the transport sequence. It is one of the qualities that made us choose Earth as a sanctuary rather than merely a watchpost. The crystal networks began to sing with that now familiar resonance. As the transport effect took hold, Samantha caught a final glimpse of Marcus. He stood tall among the ancient technology, no longer the awkward research assistant but something more, a human being rising to face an impossible challenge. The last thing she heard before the crystal light engulfed them was his voice over the chamber's communication system, beginning to weave an elaborate deception for the approaching military forces. Attention, unauthorized intruders. You have entered a level 7 quarantine zone. Please prepare for mandatory decontamination procedures. Then they were flying through the crystal networks again, racing against time to prevent one alien's good intentions from devastating the very civilization he sought to protect. Above them, the Harvester scout ship continued its implacable scan of Earth's defenses, counting down the hours until its masters would arrive to claim their prize. The weapons vault of the archive was a cathedral of crystalline light, its vast chamber stretching deep into Mount Elbrus's heart. As Samantha and Ariadne materialized from the transport beam, they found themselves facing a scene of controlled chaos. Holographic displays filled the air, each showing different aspects of Earth's defensive capabilities, or lack thereof. In the center stood a tall figure similar to Ariadne but with stark differences. Where her patterns flowed like rivers of light, his crackled like lightning. His opalescent skin had a darker, almost stormy quality. He worked at a central control panel with fierce determination, barely acknowledging their arrival. You cannot stop this, Ariadne, he said without looking up. The harvesters are already here. We waited too long. Nikolai, Ariadne's voice carried both warmth and warning. You know the protocols. The defense grid cannot be activated without proper calibration. You risk. I risk nothing compared to what the harvesters will do. He finally turned, his storm cloud eyes fixing on Samantha. You've brought one of them. Good. Let her witness what her people face. He gestured, and the holographic displays merged into a single massive projection showing scenes from across history, but not the history Samantha knew. She watched ancient civilizations rise and fall, each one harvested at the peak of their development. The harvesters' ships descended like mechanical locusts, stripping worlds of not just resources, but the very essence of their inhabitants' consciousness. 16 civilizations in this sector alone, Nikolai's voice was heavy with remembered pain. We tried to protect them all. We failed. Earth was to be our last stand, our chance to break their cycle once and for all. By destroying the very people you're trying to protect. Samantha stepped forward. Marcus said the energy readings from your activation attempts are already causing seismic disturbances. Unnecessary risk. The grid was never meant to be activated this way, Ariadne cut in. She moved to another control panel, her patterns synchronizing with the archive systems. Show her the truth, Nikolai. Show her why we really chose Earth. The holographic display shifted again, this time showing Earth's distant past. Samantha watched in awe as primitive humans encountered beings of light and crystal, Ariadne's people in their original form. We were like you once, Ariadne explained. Before we transcended our physical forms, before we learned to weave our consciousness into light and crystal. We saw in humanity that same spark, that potential for evolution beyond mere physical existence. But potential means nothing if the harvesters strip it away first. Nikolai's patterns flared with frustration. They're scanning our defenses now. When their main fleet arrives. Then we trust in the plan we made millennia ago, Ariadne said firmly. The one you helped design, brother. Brother. The word hung in the air as Samantha looked between them, suddenly understanding the deeper currents of their conflict. You're not just fellow guardians. You're family. We all are, in our way, Ariadne's voice softened. Which is why what you plan is so dangerous, Nikolai. The defense grid wasn't meant to be a weapon. Show her. Nikolai hesitated, then waved his hand. The holographic display changed one final time, revealing the true nature of the crystalline network that spanned the globe. It wasn't just a communication system or a weapon, it was a vast neural network, designed to link minds across continents, across species, across the very boundaries of consciousness itself. The grid is an evolutionary accelerator, Samantha breathed, her archaeological training helping her grasp the implications. You weren't building a fortress. You were building a cradle. One that would allow humanity to achieve in generations what took us millennia, Ariadne confirmed. But it must be a gradual awakening. Forced activation wouldn't just cause physical destruction, it would overwhelm the collective human consciousness, burning out billions of minds in an instant. The chamber shuddered as another seismic tremor passed through the mountain. Above them, the Harvester scout ship had completed its scan and was beginning to transmit its findings back to its fleet. "We're out of time," Nikolai insisted. "Better some survive with their potential intact than all be reduced to computational resources for the Harvesters." "There's always another way," Samantha said, stepping between the siblings. "In the military, I learned that sometimes the best defense isn't a bigger weapon, it's changing the rules of engagement entirely." She turned to Ariadne. "You said the grid links minds. Could it link to the Harvesters too?" Ariadne's patterns shifted to a new configuration, one that seemed to pulse with hope. "It was never designed for such a connection, but, theoretically, if we inverted the resonance frequency, we could show them what they've been destroying," Samantha finished. "Make them experience the civilizations they've harvested, feel what was lost." "It would require precise timing," Nikolai said slowly, his storms beginning to calm. "And a human consciousness to guide the connection. Our minds are too different from theirs now." "Then it's good thing you have me," Samantha managed a tight smile. "Unless you've got a better idea for saving humanity." The chamber's sensors blared a new warning. The Harvester scout ship had received its response. The main fleet would arrive within hours. "She's right," Ariadne said to her brother. "It's time to trust in the very quality that drew us to humanity in the first place, their capacity to find light in the darkest places." Nikolai studied Samantha for a long moment, his storm-cloud eyes seeming to peer into her very soul. Finally, his patterns shifted to match his sister's. "Very well. But if this fails?" "It won't," Samantha said with more confidence than she felt. "Now, show me how this grid really works. We've got a bunch of cosmic locusts to empathize with." As they began their preparations, reconfiguring the grid for its new purpose, Samantha sent a silent prayer toward the archive's upper chambers where Marcus continued his game of cat and mouse with Earth's military forces. Everything would depend on keeping humanity's defenders distracted just long enough to attempt something that had never been tried before, teaching empathy to beings that had forgotten the very meaning of the word. The crystalline chamber hummed with power as they worked, its song building toward a crescendo that would either herald humanity's next great evolutionary step or its final hour. Above them, the Harvester scout ship went silent, waiting for its masters to arrive. The real test was about to begin. The Harvester fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm of metallic locusts, their ships blotting out the stars as they moved into Earth's orbit. Inside Mount Elbrus, deep in the archive's weapons vault, Samantha sat within a crystalline chamber that hummed with power beyond human comprehension. The neural interface is calibrated. Ariadne's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere as her consciousness merged with the archive systems. "But Samantha, you must understand, no human has ever attempted this level of connection. The strain on your mind could kill me," Samantha finished. "You mentioned that the first 3 times." She adjusted the crystal nodes attached to her temples. "Better than watching those things strip Earth of everything that makes us human." Through the archive sensors, they watched the Harvester fleet deploy its initial wave of collection ships. Each vessel bristled with technology designed to efficiently process entire civilizations into computational resources. "The military response has begun," Nikolai reported, his storm cloud patterns rippling with tension as he monitored global communications. Your friend Marcus has done well in containing ground forces, but he cannot delay them much longer. Surface-to-space weapons are being prepared worldwide. They'll never penetrate the Harvester's shields, Ariadne said. Not with your current technology. Samantha closed her eyes, feeling the crystal network's power building around her. Then let's show them some new technology. Start the sequence. The chamber's resonance changed, its harmonics shifting to match the frequency of human consciousness. Samantha felt her awareness expand, touching minds across the globe. Billions of humans going about their lives, many still unaware of the threat above them. Their hopes, fears, dreams, and loves flowed through her like a river of pure experience. Primary connection established, Ariadne reported. Preparing to invert the resonance frequency. Nikolai, synchronize the global network. Synchronization beginning. Samantha, prepare yourself. When we connect to the Harvester consciousness, there can be no hesitation. Show them everything. Make them feel it all. The chamber erupted with light as the full power of the crystal network surged through Samantha's consciousness. Her awareness rocketed upward, past the atmosphere, into the cold void where the Harvester fleet waited. Their collective consciousness was vast and alien, a crystalline labyrinth of pure logic stripped of all emotion. Let me in, Samantha projected, pushing against their mental barriers. Let me show you what you've forgotten. The Harvester's resistance was immediate and overwhelming. Their consciousness pressed against hers like a glacier of frozen thought, threatening to crush her mind. But Samantha had something they didn't expect, the living, breathing essence of humanity flowing through her. She showed them a child's first laugh, a mother's love, the bittersweet pain of growing up. She showed them art born from passion, music that stirred the soul, discoveries driven by pure curiosity rather than cold calculation. Through her connection to the global consciousness, she drew upon billions of human experiences. A street musician playing for spare change, putting their whole heart into every note. A scientist working through the night, driven by the pure joy of discovery. Lovers sharing their first kiss under starlight. A soldier laying down their life for a stranger. A parent working 3 jobs to give their child a better future. Each memory, each emotion crashed against the Harvester's mental walls like waves against a cliff. And slowly, imperceptibly at first, those walls began to crack. It's working, Ariadne's voice seemed to come from light years away. Their collective consciousness is destabilizing. The fleet's synchronization is failing. Through her expanded awareness, Samantha felt something shift in the Harvester consciousness, a remembering. Ancient memories, locked away beneath eons of cold calculation, began to surface. They too had once been creatures of emotion and creativity before they sacrificed it all in the name of perfect efficiency. More, Nikolai urged. Show them what they truly lost. Samantha dove deeper, drawing upon humanity's greatest triumphs and deepest sorrows. The cave paintings at Lascaux. The first notes of Mozart's Requiem. The words, "That's one small step for man." She showed them humanity's capacity for both creation and destruction, the eternal dance between light and shadow that made existence meaningful. Above Earth, the Harvester fleet began to move, but not in attack formation. Ships peeled away from their positions, their once perfect synchronization dissolving as individual awareness returned to their collective consciousness. They're retreating, Nikolai reported, his patterns flickering with disbelief. The entire fleet is withdrawing. In the space between thoughts, Samantha felt a final message from the Harvester consciousness, not in words, but in concepts that burned themselves into her mind. We remember. We were wrong. The efficiency we sought was an illusion. True advancement lies not in the stripping away of consciousness, but in its infinite expansion. You have reminded us of what we once were, and what we might become again. The neural connection broke with a crack of crystal resonance. Samantha slumped in the interface chamber, exhausted but alive. Through blurry eyes, she saw Ariadne and Nikolai's patterns had synchronized, pulsing with a harmony she hadn't seen before. The harvesters are gone, Ariadne confirmed softly. And with them, perhaps our need for secrecy as well. The crystal network has been activated, Nikolai added. Not as a weapon, but as it was truly intended, a bridge between consciousness. Humanity's potential has been awakened, though it will take time to fully manifest. Speaking of humanity, Samantha managed to stand, though her legs shook. We should probably do something about all those military forces about to breach the archive's upper chambers. Already handled, Marcus's voice came through the communication system, sounding exhausted but proud. I convinced them the entire complex was flooded with exotic radiation. They're establishing a quarantine zone instead of an invasion force. Although I think Dr. Wells is going to have some interesting meetings in her future. Samantha laughed despite her exhaustion. I suppose first contact was never going to be simple. She turned to Ariadne and Nikolai. What happens now? Now, Ariadne's patterns shifted to something warm and hopeful. We do what we should have done millennia ago. We step into the light and greet humanity not as secret guardians, but as teachers, friends, family. The crystal network will allow for gradual integration, preventing the cultural shock we once feared. And the harvesters? Samantha asked. They will need time to rediscover themselves, Nikolai said. As will we all. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson here, that evolution is not a straight path to some perfect end, but a spiral that sometimes requires us to remember what we have forgotten in order to truly move forward. Outside the archive, the sun was rising over Mount Elbrus. Its light caught the exposed crystal formations, sending rainbow refractions across the snow. Somewhere in the distance, military helicopters were withdrawing, their pilots unaware that they had just witnessed not an invasion thwarted, but a birth of something new. Humanity had faced its first real test among the stars not with weapons or technology, but with the very things that made them human, emotion, creativity, and the capacity to help others remember the light within themselves. As Samantha watched the dawn paint the mountains gold, she knew that whatever came next, humanity would face it not alone, but as part of a larger family among the stars. The crystal network hummed softly, its song now a permanent part of Earth's consciousness. Ready to help humanity take its next steps into a future where the barriers between minds, between species, between stars themselves would slowly fade away. Not through force or efficient calculation, but through understanding, growth, and the infinite power of remembering who we truly are.